Okay, folks, let's talk it over. And today I am absolutely, as you can see, big grin on my face.
Me too.
I have this wonderful, wonderful guest. I've just met her 45 minutes ago. I have read her book. I already love her. I mean, I consider her a dear friend.
Yep.
And I also have two other dear friends I'll introduce in a second. But Julie Rogers Pomilia. And that the key name here is the middle one.
Yeah, definitely.
Her book is about her grandparents, who I took people I loved growing up. I didn't get to know them, but I did love them. And you may have too, and you may have loved their dog and their horses and even their Jeep. Their names were Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. And of course, in case you don't know, Trigger, Buttermilk, Bullet, and Nellie Bell.
Oh, that's right.
Got them all.
Got that one.
And the name of the book is Your Heroes, My Grandparents, A
Aw.
Granddaughter's Love. And I'm going to tell you right now, please, at the end of the show, we have down below in the description, Monica puts up buy links. Buy a copy of this book. And I'm going to recommend, unless there's really a reason to get it in electronic, this is one you want in print because it is full of some of the greatest pictures. Not only the pictures you've already seen, but a few you won't have seen, including one that I'm going to tell you, Julie was telling us about just a minute ago, that we'll get to, that nobody has ever seen because it's her own personal picture of her with her grandpa, Roy Rogers. And it's a great picture. Okay, now my other special guest today is a Roy Rogers, Dale Evans fanatic fan, the name Bono. And you may have remembered Pat, she's been on the show before. She's also a very fine psychic and pet psychic and a very interesting person in her own right. But tonight she's here because, like me, she's a Roy and Dale fan.
Oh,
And then a third Roy and Dale fan.
Right.
Third one is Monica Brinkman, who of course is always my wonderful co-host. Okay, so we happen to get an email from this wonderful friend of the show, Harlan Bowl. Harlan is a publicist, and he has brought us some fabulous things. Julie is one of them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you a story, because I don't know, Julie, if Harlan has told you this story, that he is a member of your family. Did you
I
know
don't
that?
know that he's the member of the family.
Yes, he is. He is officially a member of your family, and I'm going to tell you the story why. They were doing a shoot one day, a big family event. You were probably there.
I
but It
was.
was the adults,
Uh-huh.
and there was a photographer, and all the adults were standing around, family thing, and the photographer was snapping away. And Harlan had come to make sure the photographer had shown up and was doing his job properly. And, he was doing his job as a publicist.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes to get a magazine. I forget which magazine he told me, but I don't remember. But with the pictures in it, just to check and see that they came out right. And there he is in the photograph as a member of the family.
I love it. I love it.
He was totally chagrined, as you can imagine, and embarrassed, and immediately called Dale up. He called Dale because basically when you talk to this couple, you talk to Dale. Roy again, very reticent. You have to be
Absolutely.
doing something with Roy to actually get him to talk to you.
Yeah.
But so he calls up and he says, he starts apologizing. And Dale says, so what? What's one more in the family?
That is exactly something she would say. Exactly.
And I love the fact I could tell you a story you didn't know.
I love that. I love that. That is great. And I was there that day, but I didn't know Harlan at that time. And I was in that picture. I have that book, Portraits of Life with Love. Great book. Great book. Lots of really great pictures. So
wow.
So Pat, I know my first thing I want to talk to Julie about, but I have to give you a shot. What
Okay.
would you like to know? Something you'd like to know.
I don't know where to start. Let's see. Oh gosh.
It is hard.
Yeah, I I grew up with them, and I used to every time the show came on, I would. What was it like being part of their family? I mean, I you know, were they
Hard
as
to imagine if you're not one of those, and
Mhm.
yet it's hard to imagine being in the family that it is anything different from anybody else's family. Because for all I knew, everybody's grandfather had a TV show.
Yeah.
And when I was little, they just acted like, well, this is just what we do. And there wasn't a big difference, if at all, of when they were playing Roy and Dale and when they were Roy and Dale. They were every bit the same off screen as they were what you saw.
Yeah, I would imagine they were very much, you could see the love. They're very much in love.
They were very accessible and they were very humble, and they never forgot their beginnings. And Grandpa would always say, if it weren't for my fans, there wouldn't be a Roy Rogers.
So was the show filmed in Hollywood, or?
It was filmed out in San Fernando Valley. I don't know if you know LA area very much, but it's a lot of the shows and movies were actually filmed right on their property, because they had this, for me as a kid, it was a magical ranch.
Wow.
In Chatsworth, and we'd go out there every Friday night and have dinner. And they did a lot of their filming. They could put on their makeup in the bedroom and walk out the back door, and there they were on set. And so they did a lot of the filming there in like Simi Valley area. Basically LA area, but it was a little bit out in the country at that point. Nowadays, it's not the country anymore. And their land, their house is still there. And I've been through it twice in my life since they lived there. But all their 300 acres is all subdivided, and it's no longer all the acreage. Val Kilmer's family bought the house when they moved.
Did they keep Trigger and Buttermilk on property or on site?
No, Trigger died actually the very same year that they moved from Chatsworth.
I know there was, yeah.
And that was tough, because they moved because he needed to get away from the memories, because 2 of their kids had already died. And as they moved, a 3rd child died.
I know that,
it was just really a tough time.
They
didn't.
Now, is Trigger considered one of the kids?
Oh yeah, he was a family member for sure. Grandpa used to say, I have more friends that are horses and dogs than people, actually, because he just felt so one with the animals. He felt he and Trigger had a bond that was unbelievable. I mean, there were other triggers that they had to bring out, like when they would go travel and stuff. It's just really difficult on an animal to put them through that much traveling and performing, and run them into the ground.
Yes, folks. Before I let Julie crew any spoilers, yes, there was a discussion of those other triggers.
Yeah.
And their
but there was no other Trigger besides the old man. The old man is the original Trigger, and that was the one he had a special connection with. And that's the one he used to put us on when Trigger was already.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I feel bad that I didn't appreciate it as much at the time as I do now, but he would be able to put us on from mane to tail, all the kids on there, and
lined up.
He just knew that there were children on him, and he needed to be very careful. He was such a gentle, wonderful horse, very smart. You just had to be careful not to touch him in a place that he had a cue to do something, because my sister took him one time and started to rear up, and Grandpa had to pull him down, like but he was great. And there were really only 2 other triggers that did most of the stand-in things that Trigger couldn't make, but they had about 7 of them in a back at the Hutchins stables. just to make sure that they didn't run out. I mean, what if, something happened to this one and that one and that one? They didn't want to be without a trigger. That's for sure.
I want to,
I love the morality. I'm sorry.
I want to tell something I did learn from the book, because I think it really speaks to Roy Rogers, the man, and his bond to the animal. When he bought the original trigger, he had borrowed, I guess from the studio had borrowed it or whatever, and he fell in love with the horse, and he wasn't making a lot of money.
No.
And he put a price on this horse of $2,500, which at that time was a huge amount.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
And he paid it off. He paid it off like weekly.
Yeah, he had to pay it off slowly.
Yeah.
He wanted that horse.
Because
he got on him and all the other horses. He didn't even want to try another horse. He said, "This is the one." And
They must have had an immediate connection or
Oh,
something.
Sure.
yeah,
Wow.
Hey, Pat, did you know, Pat, that when Dale Evans married Roy Rogers, she did not know how to ride a horse?
Really?
Really?
Oh my goodness.
It's one of those
I
things you have to buy.
when she came out to Hollywood,
But she used to gallop along on buttermilk.
no, she was no, she didn't know how to ride. But when she came out to Hollywood, they asked her, "Can you dance?" Because she was going to do a screen test for a movie with Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby called Holiday Inn. And and she said, "Oh, of course I can dance." Well, she couldn't dance. I mean, not to dance with Fred Astaire kind of dance. So it was found out very quickly because she had to just come clean. She said, "I can't dance," and anyway, they were not happy, but they said, "Well, we've got this up and coming cowboy that we want to test, for a leading lady. Can you ride a horse?" And she said, "Oh, of course I could ride a horse. I'm from Texas." It's like,
From Texas is what she said.
so she fibbed again. And so then when she got on set, she didn't even know which side of the horse to get on.
Oh my
And
goodness.
Grandpa was trying to be very gentlemanly and not say anything. But later on, as we were growing up, he would joke and say, "I never saw so much sky between a woman's rear end and a horse in my whole life." She got on that horse and she was all over the place. So, by the end of the show, she got to be a fairly good rider. But, Buttermilk was not the best horse.
Really?
She
Oh.
didn't like that horse. He had been abused, and they had worked, when he was younger, and he was actually on his way to be slaughtered. And they pulled him off the truck and took him to this stables that rented horses out for movies. And they worked with him and got him a little bit, more, nicer. But he was a lot of horse for her. And he had his own mind, and she, couldn't change that mind sometimes. And she blamed a lot of stuff on him. Her, caps on her teeth falling out, her hysterectomy.
Oh my.
She said, that horse was was rough.
One thing I want to say real quick is whenever Roy used to fight with anybody, I love the morality of the show, but he never let his hat never fell off.
Yes, I know.
Maybe once or twice in all those years, his hat never came off.
But
I know.
We have this.
And they didn't shoot people with blood and everything. They basically shot the guns out of the guy's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a right or wrong, morals and no morals kind of a deal. I loved that. And
that's what I loved about the show.
Julie, could you get Roy's hat for us?
Oh yeah.
You have his hat? Oh my goodness.
One of his real hats, Pat. This is
Grandpa's real hat that he wore. There were some hats that he would shape and then put on and then give to somebody or sell or whatever. No, this was really his hat, and on the inside of it, I don't know if you can see, but it's
sweat.
It has his signature.
Yeah.
You can see.
And on the front of it, I got the hat. He gave it to my dad, and my dad passed it on to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got it, it had this. My dad didn't wear it. Grandpa wore it. It had sweat stains here. I don't know if you can see the sweat.
Oh, well, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to go get it cleaned, so I took it to the country store down in LA, and they do a lot of celebrity things. They're real careful and you can trust them. And I said, look, I'd really like to get the sweat taken off the hat and cleaned up. And he turned the hat over and saw that it was Roy Rogers' hat. And he said, are you kidding me? You're not going to clean this hat. You want that on there. And I said, I do? Why? And so, I guess being family, I didn't think of that. I didn't think that would be a thing I'd want. But now it's a fun story, at least for me. But it's still dirty.
Of course, it's the boots that are standing right there next to Julie, as long as we're talking about memorabilia.
I was just going to ask, are those his boots? Or
No.
Yeah, well, no, these are Grandma's boots.
So grandma's. Oh, okay.
There's a chapter in my book that talks about how I came to have these boots. Grandma asked me one time when I was in college if I would go upstairs in the attic and get a couple of big boxes and get a bunch of stuff to take to Goodwill, because she wanted to donate and help people out and stuff. Well, while I was up there, I saw these boots and another pair of boots that were dark blue, and they have Dale Evans sewed in the straps.
Oh wow, look at that.
Straps here. And I could tell they were used. They were, she used them on the show, and there's a picture in my book of her wearing these in one of the scenes of their show. Anyway, I thought, wow, these have been really well loved and used because they're all scuffed up and everything. And so I took them downstairs with the other things, and I asked her, I said, could I maybe have one of these pairs of boots? There's so much history behind it. And she goes, these old things? I said, yeah. She said, yeah, you can have a pair, but donate the other pair because somebody's going to need shoes. And I thought, they're cowgirl boots.
Yeah.
So it was cute because I drove to Goodwill that day with a box with Dale Evans boots in them, and somebody was walking around eventually with Dale Evans boots on.
Wow.
From
You didn't need to know it, huh?
But he didn't think it was any big deal. It was just a pair of old boots, and somebody's going to need shoes. So
You mentioned college. I'm going to mention something here, but folks, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to tell you just a little bit. This book obviously meant something to me. I connected to it because Roy Rogers and Dale, I grew up with them as role models.
Yeah, role models.
yeah.
But the chapter that really got to me was the chapter about Julie's college graduation. And when they came to her and they asked her what she would like as a present, I'm not going to tell you what it was, other than to say it wasn't something you bought with money. It was something you did with love.
Wow.
When I was reading this chapter, I was telling Julie earlier, it brought tears to my eyes. There are things in this book, they transcend. Yes, this is Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, and yes, they are very special to a lot of us, especially those of us who are, over the age of like 50-ish, I guess. A little younger, may have seen, but it's not the same thing as waking up every Saturday morning looking forward to seeing them on television or listening to them on radio. But this is also a book about a granddaughter's love. And one of the things I have to share that makes this book special is that it's not a biography of these two incredible people. It is a book about a granddaughter's love and the connection between. And that, folks, make it very special. And again, I'm going to tell you, this is a book you want to buy. And if you like to look at photographs, buy it in the print so you can have those photographs to leaf through independently of reading, because it's really charming. Monica?
I can't wait. I'm telling you to read this.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
When is it going to be available?
It's going to be available officially on April 17th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But right now, if you go on Amazon, you can pre-order it. It's up on Amazon. But there's no picture yet on Amazon. There was a computer glitch, and they're trying to fix it. On Barnes and Noble's site, there is a picture if you want to see what the cover looks like.
Yeah, well, we sure and have the links where they can,
Yeah,
get
you
the
can
book.
order it.
Sure.
You
Get
can
those
order it
links,
online.
and after they are, I guess it'd be the same link anyway. So yeah, let's get those links up. And I think we're going to try and have this up a little bit before the book comes out.
Yeah,
And folks,
people can pre-order it.
great book.
Yeah, you can pre-order it. So,
Yeah.
Patricia, you're a lover of horses, right?
yes, we have 2 horses, and
You have to, and Patricia, you love horses.
oh,
I
I'm
do, yeah,
sorry, you're
that-
talking to Pat.
Oh,
Yeah,
both of
yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's how
Yeah.
Pat and
I
I know
was-
each other. She and
They-
my wife
they-
used to ride
yeah.
at the same stable.
That's
We
how I
all
met.
love horses.
Yeah, that they inspire, Dale and Roy inspired my love for horses and my
I was gonna ask. Wow.
my code of integrity, because all those shows were, I don't know who wrote those shows, but they were so morally correct, or so there was a
Yeah.
lesson there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it taught the children a lesson, but
Yeah,
was
I learned. Yeah,
entertaining, and it was wholesome. I mean,
yeah.
Well,
You guys
they were that way with us and with their kids. I mean, he was always talking about, the value of being kind and the value that, that you give gifts that aren't always monetary, but you give gifts of time. And so they used to go into the children's hospitals and spend time with the sick children there. And he would even bring Trigger inside. He'd put
Aw.
rubber shoes on him, and they'd come right up. One time he came up to a little girl who was blind, and he had Trigger put his head down right up near her face, and so she could feel his nose,
Aw.
oh,
breath,
One of the
and
pictures,
everything.
isn't it?
What's that?
That's one of the pictures in the book.
Yeah.
Did he
Yeah.
ever
yeah.
bring? Did he ever bring Bullet to any of the hospitals, or?
I don't think so. I mean, he might have, but it was mainly Trigger, old Trigger. He was just really, it's like he knew this was a special mission that he had with Grandpa to do.
No, it was Bullet
yeah.
was Bullet their dog, or it was Studio
Yeah.
dog, or who's
Yeah.
who's their dog? Okay.
One of their
They
dogs.
had
Well, yeah, I know you had
Bobo,
other.
Bowser, Bambi, Bobo, and Mark.
Mhm,
They had
okay.
5 dogs when I was growing up. I don't know why the last one wasn't a B name. Maybe they ran out of B
yes,
names.
because you had to mark it.
I don't know. But there's a picture of me with one of their dogs in there. When I was little, I was just obsessed with one of them. But anyway, Bullet was, they come barking and running out to greet us when we drive up to the driveway. And it was always chaotic fun.
Got a story from the book, just to give you folks an idea how really fun this book is. Okay, earlier, Julie, you had mentioned that you'd go up there on Friday nights, you'd spend the weekend.
Uh-huh.
And Friday night, I guess, always was stew night.
Oh.
And one of the things about the dogs was that Julie basically didn't like the stew. And she would try and get the dogs. She and the other kids would be sitting in the kitchen eating while adults were in the dining room. And she'd try and feed the stew to the dogs. And sometimes even the dogs wouldn't eat Dale's stew.
Well,
Made this.
the stew was really a melting pot of something. I don't know what, but it was disgusting. And fish was on Fridays, and so she always had fish in the stew. I hope we didn't lose Pat. And then Grandpa, then she'd put all this other stuff that he would hunt, like it could be badger or bear meat or some kind of gamey taste, and the whole thing was just none of us liked it. But we, it was just part of the Friday night dinners.
By the way, part of this was that there was always really good, I gather, rolls, and there was always Jello. And the trick was, how do you tip the food so that the Jello? Oh no, and we lost Pat. How do we?
Yeah, I think she's frozen.
Oh,
How do we keep the food safe from the stew?
from the stew juice, because you didn't want to get stew juice in all the other good stuff. So I'd be like tipping my plate and shoving the Jell-O up to the sides and the rolls and the, but then the Jell-O would get hot and it would melt and green juice would be running around the plate. Yeah, quite an ordeal. But it was just a great time in the kitchen with all my cousins because we were all sitting around that table doing the same thing. So.
Okay. Folks, human, loving, wonderful family. And the fact that two of the most famous people in the world happen to be Grandma and Grandpa is just an added bonus. And by the way, just one last little thing, because we do have to wrap up here, is one of the things I really love about you, Julie, in the book, before I met you, even. And I think it's typified. Of course, you are an elementary school teacher. You teach third grade now. And there is a point where you are in school and your weekly reader comes.
Oh.
And your teacher is blown away, calls you up to the desk. Look, it's your grandparents. And you like, yeah, what's the big deal? I see them all.
I was respectful, but I was so confused. I thought, why are you making a big deal about this? And so she went on and there he was. Okay. I mean, I'd seen lots of things like that. And other friends had lunch boxes with him on it. And I didn't think a thing. And so I went home and had a lot of questions that day to my parents. Like, why did she even know who they were? And up until then, I really didn't have an idea of their celebrity, their fame, or the effects that they had on
just Grandma and Grandpa. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, you saw them on the big screen, and I saw them through the screen door when I was asking for a popsicle. That kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so I didn't pay attention to a lot of the stuff that people think I should know about my family because I was just a kid. We didn't care. And so I've had to learn about my family, some of the facts and some of the, what historians know, kind of later on. I can tell you stories all day about my experiences with them, but I've had to learn in hindsight really more about who they were professionally.
Sure.
So,
Now, before we stop, I think we have one more item to show off. This is a great show and tell. We've had a hat, we've had boots, and I think you said there was one more item.
Yeah, I have, here, just a minute. I have one of, actually I have a lot of stuff, more than I thought. I have one of Grandma's sequin gowns.
Oh, wow.
On the Barbara Mandrell show and the Andy Williams show. But I also have one of Grandpa's fancy sequined shirt.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Yes, that's definitely Roy Rogers, yes.
Yeah, and they're very, very hot. I can wear this, but I'm just dying by the time I'm getting out of it. And I did have a little mishap, a little wardrobe malfunction one time when I was wearing this, and that's in the book, which
we're not going to tell what it is. Read the book.
Yeah, read the book. Right. You'll find out what happened.
That's right.
Anyway.
Okay, so folks, just one last time, I'm going to tell you we've been talking with Julie Rogers Pomilia. I'm emphasizing that middle name because Roy and Dale. Roy Rogers, Dale Evans' granddaughter, and her book is called Your Heroes, My Grandparents, A Granddaughter's Love. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me on.
I'm going to be buying it, and I know many people will. Can we have a little something special right now, right?
What's that? What?
Some pictures and
Yes, we're going to have a couple pictures from the book and
oh, that's right.
a song. We're going to add on at the end, folks. So stay and listen, and then click on those links that Monica's putting up because you really, really do want to buy this book. Oh, good.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened.
Start over. No.
I don't know.
I'm sorry,
I
Pat.
froze, and I don't know what happened after that.
Oh, wow, look at that. Now, whose outfit is that?
Joyce.
Yeah, it's Grandpa's.
Wow.
So
Isn't it
anyway,
beautiful?
Oh, that's
very
so, that's so
hot. You
beautiful.
don't want to
Yeah,
wear it.
yeah.
But
It looks very, is it very heavy?
It's very heavy. It's wool
Yeah.
and gabardine, and it's just like
Wool.
eh,
Wow.
just
You
sucks
wouldn't
you
think
in.
that, would you, looking at it?
No.
I know.
He wore those because they didn't wrinkle and they looked sharp all the time.
Right.
Even
And
though
you
you're
they're
able-
long inside of
Wow.
them.
And you were able to preserve it too, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
preserve. Heck, you can wear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh, so once again, Julie, thank you so much for joining us.
Well,
And
thank you for having me.
And Patricia also.
Pat,
Yeah. Did you
I-
watch the filming of any of the shows?
We watched when I was growing up, they were doing shows like Andy Williams and Perry Como and Dinah Shore and stuff like that. So we would go to studio shows.
Okay.
But they were finished filming when I was by the time I was born, their
Yeah.
show.
Oh, okay. They were okay.
But we'd watch the reruns with Grandpa, and he'd be on the floor with us going, "Go, Roy, go, get him, Roy, get them bad guys.
Oh,
Get him,
one other little spoiler is that Julie hasn't mentioned. She also would go on the shows and perform and sing, and there's some hilarious stuff about that in the book. Read the book.
Get the book. Read the book. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again, both of you. And folks, thank you so much for listening to Monica and my show. And we'll be back next week, I'm sure, with somebody else. But I don't know that I'm ever going to have a guest on the show that I'm going to like more than I have liked Julie.
Well, yeah, we'll have to trade numbers, all of us.
sure. Yes, sure.
Hey,
Thank you all so much. Take care and folks, enjoy.
Happy trails.
For sure.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
Who cares about the clouds if we're together?
Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Some trails are happy ones.
Others are blue. It's the way you ride the trail that counts. Here's a happy one for you. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Happy trails.